Hey, this is Burgerkrieg, and before we begin this week's installment of the CBR, I'd like to ask you all for help. There's this guy on the internet called Galen Halcyon, and he and his girlfriend are in a pretty fucked up situation right now. I'm not particularly knowledgeable about the details, but essentially he's got a severe disease and needs to have his mouth operated on, and being American, whatever insurance he may or may not have doesn't cover it. In his debilitated state, he cannot work, and the operation is very expensive, so you probably see the problem. If you want specifics, the Fundraiser page has all of them. I don't know Galen personally, but I do know his ideas, and I disagree with many of them, to be honest. He's a very smart man who is constantly generating new thoughts, and he will discuss them with you in deep conversations. If you disagree, then, that's what you do. He won't hate or slight you for it, as many others do, because people get very precious about their opinions these days. In fact, he'll probably respect you for disagreeing. Also, judging from the many people who do know him, he's an utterly loyal man, and he will stand by the side of his friends when times go bad and he himself is placed in danger. Now, I'm not his friend. As I said, I don't even know the man personally, but I'll be damned if I don't use my tiny platform to call for help on his behalf, because he is the type of person the world needs more of. I don't have a lot of money, so I can only give little, but I know a bunch of people in the Battle Royale community who also don't have a lot of money and can also only give a little. But with all our littles combined, we can actually help Galen and his family out, because honestly, he deserves the kindness of internet strangers. I'll link to the fundraiser page and PayPal email address in the doobly-doo, and I implore you to go ahead and donate whatever you feel like sparing today. I don't know, like the pocket change you have or something. Actually, you know what? If you send me some sort of receipt, a screenshot from, I don't know, the PayPal thing or something, you can send me that over Reddit in a PM, and I'll read something for you. I can do a variety of shitty accents. Just do it like 1 or 2 paragraphs. I'm not going to be reading fucking Lord of the Rings or something. And yeah, if the size of the text may or may not be able to grow with the size of the donation you are willing to make, if you catch my drift there. So yeah, anyway, let's just start with the CBR now. Welcome to the r/civ Battle Royale, Part 70. Your writer for today is TA Knight, and I will be reading his slides. We're currently in a period of turmoil, as the Burs have had war declared on them by a great many civilizations. Will the Alliance manage to defeat the Juggernaut, or will the Draka triumph above all else? Find out after the announcements. The Annals of the World and City Map by Malsistra and Laxarax Araskol have been going through severe changes as cities around the world fall and flip between all kinds of civilizations. Some, you'll be surprised, are still around. Now for the relationship graph by Mazer Laser. While several wars have ended, the Burs end up as the focal point of activity in the brewing conflict. The Buccaneers begin the new part by striking West Africa, retaking Marrakesh and Bamako. Those who are watchful will note that Marrakesh has the Great Lighthouse, an important wonder for naval warfare, so it's important for the Buccaneers to hold it as long as possible. Addis Ababa flips. The Burs are rampaging through Ethiopia, taking Adwa as well. Along the front lines, all of Selassie's cities are in deep red, and only need a melee units to take them out. This might be a bit difficult due to the Burs' bias toward hover tanks, but they have enough other unit types on the battlefield to make up for it. The Alliance are really bringing down their nukes on Paul Kruger, however, it doesn't seem to slow the Juggernaut down much. The Buccaneers will need everything they have in their arsenal if they don't want to lose their holdings in Africa. On a more quiet front, Korea pieces out with Sabir in a war that only served to waste Korean XCOMs and Sabir cities. The Khan's men still have to stay on battle stations, however, as they have stupidly declared war on the Burs, who are now attacking their easternmost cities like Finland and Korea did before. Despite being tiny and weak, Israel still has some diplomatic clout, as they propose enacting Judaism as the world religion. There's little chance for this to work, as not many civilizations are left in Europe, but who knows? maybe the Jews will prevail. Respect the dead is a phrase unheard of in the Battle Royale, as our dear leaders frequently plot against those without cities. We are in for a short commercial break here at the Rio Olympics 1640. The city of Rio counts 24 population, which is impressive for an empire like Brazil, but less so for the technological leaders, and counts many wonders, one of which is the Alhambra, which provides rough terrain bonuses to units built in the city. This is less than useful in the current wars, however, as neither water nor mountains are counted as rough terrain for some reason, I don't know. Rio's twin city, Mbanza Congo, on the other hand, counts 54 population, and has a vast infrastructure. This city is building cyber subs to aid the defense against Brazilian and buccaneer ships. Our spies spin the roulette wheel again, this time heading for Sweden, Tibet, and whenever the fuck the country of the Inuit is called, which by the way holds 12% of all cities in the world. Here we see Honolulu under the control of the Blackfoot, playing host to several high-tech ships, should another war between them and Mexico start. Interestingly, a few Chilean ships also reside here, instead of assisting in the war against Brazil, as they should be. Back to our scheduled programming, we see that Vietnam is still sending out their army against the now Australian islands, in an effort to retake their lost cities once again. Sadly, this effort is in vain, as Vietnam holds not a single melee unit in the entire area. All this serves is to prevent Australian attacks on the shore. At least they can comfort themselves with the knowledge that they now hold India, and Australia can do nothing about it. The alliance grows as the Inuit and Vietnam join in against the Boers. Neither have a solid front line against them, but this does reveal the amount of hatred the world has against Paul Kruger, a man who considers all of them to be nothing but ants. Sabir still attempts to take out Afghanistan, but the mountains and the Finnish prove to be an annoying blockade. Mewai Sotak has rebuilt this carpet during the Vietnamese War, and Sabir has to chew through it once again, starting by bringing in some new planes. Sweden makes peace with the Draka after successfully clearing them from their premises, though not without assistance. As Sweden was relatively unscathed in the wars, they have rebuilt well, unlike Finland, who pretty much lost their carpet. If they want to take revenge, the time is now. Another war ends, namely Australia versus Vietnam. Aside from some major territorial changes, this has significantly changed the two empires' unit comps. Australia has shed off their digger carpet and are now building more advanced units like mech infantry, while Vietnam went hardcore ranged and is spawning a drone carpet. Only time will tell who ends up gaining an advantage should a third war arise, which, to be honest, is pretty likely. Funnily enough, this image is very much like the first Korean-Vietnamese War, Vietnam holding relatively low amounts of units, mostly ranged, and Korea boasting a full, although small, carpet. Could we see a replica war as well? Selassie regains Adwa, but loses Harare and Zabit as the Boers simply walk through Ethiopian territory, all the way up to the Red Sea. Paratrooper reinforcements are coming out from Arabia, though one may want to doubt their impending success. The last Moroccan great prophet currently resides in Congo Dianlaza, probably the only remaining Congolese city not in Boer hands. He watches as hover tanks swipe through Ethiopia, and thinks about his former plans to bring unity to the world by means of religion. Now, Paul Kruger is the one doing the unity bringing, but his preferred method seems to be death and genocide. Brazil does it. They actually managed to capture a Boer city. Sure, they had to spend their entire attack squad to do this, but they can now gloat at the fact that they managed to make the Dutchman bleed. If you can't have it, nuke it is the buccaneer motto of the day, as Fez is in fact nuked out of existence, following a failed Ethiopian offensive. The pirates are not ready to leave this world, and they are willing to bring the wrath of the Alliance down on Paul Kruger, just so they can keep their African holdings. The Buccaneer Navy is dying and being pushed back to Saleh, but it's not going to stop them from nuking the Boers. Tagging along is an Inuit arsenal ship, ready to cause some havoc over their main competitors. Iceland hears their neighbors' alarm bells ringing and carpets their navy to prevent an attack by Sweden. The atomic bomb stack still remains in Galway to deter any funny business coming from the east. Just when Mexico thought that the Buccaneers would leave the war, they strike again and take Juárez. Henry Morgan is not going to wait for Texas to be eliminated before attacking his taco-loving neighbor, even if it means it's harder to move his army forward. All resistance in Ethiopian West Africa is over, as not only Addis Ababa falls, but also Lalibela and even Kufar. Selassie barely has any units left in the way, meaning that the Boers essentially have free reign at this point. Mexico regains their capital, but the damage is already done. Australia takes Meridia and Texas takes their own capital back using their very last melee unit again. This is an extreme amount of resistance from a civilization that has essentially been a rump state for the last 20 parts. Ethiopia regains some cities, but even their carpet back in Arabia seems to be exhausted. They're down to their very last troops, but you can bet on them to mount a resistance. The Western Front has less Boer units, but it's no less dire. Ethiopia can be a little proud now, as they finally managed to take a city from their enemy, Dire Dawa, without any external assistance. It may have been theirs eons ago, but people on the cylinder have probably forgotten. The Buccaneers are ready to take Kumasi the moment Brazil loses hold of the city, backed by Inuit nuclear threats. This is all but a delay in the eyes of the Boers, but they wouldn't be the Buccaneers if they weren't the most annoying fly in the face of their enemies. The Ashanti pikeman goes south, away from the war front. He's already participated in one war, bearing witness to the destruction of everything he has held dear. He doesn't want to see Ethiopia go through the same devastation. It seems like Brazil has finally overcome their problems. They move embarked melee units around the mountains and take Talca. Arica is at 0 health, with a Brazilian paratrooper in range for capture. This may be the last turn for Chile. The Buccaneers bring in reinforcements from the Americas to assist in their African problems. The local navy has seen better days and will not hold forever at this state. In case you forgot, here's a largely forgotten war: Mongolia and Sibir versus Yakutia. It's really just some more advanced stone throwing, nothing particularly spectacular or worth seeing for that matter. Despite the extended war Brazil had against Chile, they lost little of their carpet, and are ready to fight the Buccaneers should the need arise. The Buccaneers, on the other hand, are completely unprepared. Yet another nuke hits the Boers, this time at Lonago. More interesting, though, is the clear lack of nukes in the Eastern Front. It seems like Ethiopia is not using their A-bombs at all, and neither are the Boers. The Vietnamese lure their enemies closer as 3 Boer ships approach an undefended Column Nye. While their air force is likely to make short work of the Draka ships, Vietnam has few melee units to spare should one of the cities flip. Is this all part of the ruse, though? Finland does what Finland does and citadels Espoo, the city they lost in the war against Sweden. They're likely torn between taking the place back, especially since it's right on the other side of Helsinki, and letting Sweden keep it under the agenda of border gore. Tough choice. For the first time in this war, we see a full shot of Ethiopian Arabia. Selassie is outgunned and outnumbered, and not even his UA can save him now. As expected, Kumasi falls, but the Buccaneers don't manage to retake the city, partly thanks to Brazil screwing up their formation. Everyone wants Kumasi these days, even the Inuit. As is tradition for the AI, Sweden, instead of plotting against anything meaningful, plots against Arabia. Nedong will likely look like a nuclear hellhole for a long time, or at least until Tibet is able to churn out a worker to assist in rebuilding the destroyed lands of Kiev. For now, though, Tibet is looking to pick on one of the only civilizations weaker than them, the Timurids. City information shows that only 2 tiles are covered in fallout, so Tibet has the chance to grow here. Unfortunately, none of the improvements they have access to actually provides food. This city is unlikely to grow and prosper. Thanks to the peace made between Vietnam and Australia, a number of Vietnamese units have been dislodged away from their task and end up in Hawaii, away from their friends and families. Not the worst place to be lost in, I'd wager. The Kimberley have been lying in wait for a long time now, honing their blades. They may have been beaten, slaughtered, and banished from their homeland, but they are still standing. Chile is eliminated in 27th place, finally breaking the chain of parts without eliminations. They've always been a relatively silent civilization, as South America was pretty much inactive for the longest time. Only once Brazil took out Argentina, all hell broke loose, leading to various wars, all of which Bernardo O'Higgins gained surprisingly little from. Instead, the Chileans specialized in impossible feats, such as attacking Hawaii, taking cities far away with only a few ships, and even sniping and killing America. Their respectable empire of 20 cities did not last long, however, as Australia, the Inuit, and the Buccaneers ganged up on them. Despite this, Chile stood for a long time under constant Australian, Buccaneer, and Brazilian assaults, until Brazil finally managed to deliver the killing blow. At the end of the last part, the Inuit had landed a few XCOMs in Yakutian territory, but it appears that this attack has failed. Back to stagnation on the front lines it is, then. Former Timor land, once a desert, is now covered in hydroponic farms, providing food to all its citizens. What was once a wasteland is now a prospering urban sprawl. An exiled Canadian destroyer somehow gets lodged between Iceland and Sweden. Not as great a place to do this as Hawaii would have been. The Buccaneers take Kumasi and set their eyes on Messina. The Burr Navy is nowhere to be seen, which may be a sign of cockiness on Kruger's part. We end the battle royale here. No info addict this part, which is why it's so short. I'll start doing the latest part immediately as it's already out, and wish you all a good whatever the time of day is wherever you are in the world. Also, I would like to ask you once again to help out Galen and Halcyon, as explained at the beginning of this part.